Good morning. All righty, let us begin. Sorry for the delay. So it's the Torah itself that says that we should serve God with servitude, which means when we speak about Torah and Torah likened to the fruit-bearing tree that gives pleasure. So the pleasure that we have is not even our own pleasure. The master has pleasure, we have pleasure. And this is what's called an Eved Pashut, a simple servant. It's simple. God, this makes you happy. This gives you pleasure. Then it's my pleasure. As I mentioned yesterday, in a relationship, if what someone else does, of course, something that is, permissible, and that gives them pleasure, so it gives you pleasure to give them that pleasure. Which is something else. Now let's understand more deeply. So that means it in the Torah study that you're learning, right? In that Torah study that you're learning, hasn't it sort of the yoke of heaven, the 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 um the servant doing for the master? Even though Torah study is ultimately the highest level, is that you have a pleasure in it. Well, two things come together. Because it's the Torah itself that tells us that we are to be a servant of a master. So that Torah that on the highest level is to have a pleasure in it. So on this level, it is the pleasure that the master has becomes our pleasure. So let's get a deeper understanding of this. What is this idea? So we learned at the end of Tanya, uh, just just over 2 months ago. Actually, might be exactly 2 months ago. Just over 2 months ago, we learned um, that King David calls the Torah a song. Meaning that all of the worlds, the spiritual worlds, the slow world, um, are pending on on a um, on a on exactingness of doing a mitzvah. Meaning, simply put, as he gives two examples um, of a sacrifice in tefillin. So, for example, that you are bringing life into this world of God, God's energy, His light. When you do the mitzvah of tefillin, let's say, and the tefillin are not between your eyes, your tefillin are here, or they're on your forehead, right? So that exactingness of doing the mitzvah, the precision in doing it, is what creates a union above that begets a new light, a new divine energy that is brought into this world. Right? And that's why, the world is pending on our mitzvahs, and our mitzvahs change the reality. You let Andrew in. Change the reality. Literally. Not figuratively. So that's why, like by the 6-Day War in 1967, Rebbe came out with a campaign that was the initial campaign of putting on tefillin with soldiers, putting on tefillin with everybody, because it brings a new, light into this world, new divine energy, and will help succeed light over darkness. And the miracle happened, 6-Day War. Anyways, that's the idea. But the two examples he brings is a sacrifice and tefillin. You mean a sacrifice on the altar and tefillin. So the Rebbe's father explains why does he bring these two examples? And there's 613 commandments, and brings these as two examples. Because generally in mitzvahs there is what we call halah, going up, and hamshacha, bringing down. Similar to what we spoke in the class last night, right? Of God coming down the mountain, and Moses going up the mountain, right? God, that what he precipitates from on high, and what we bring down from below. Now, in our reference here, we're talking about us in our divine service, not what God brings from above and what we bring from below. Here, it's only in our reference, so it's a bit different than what we spoke yesterday, right? And another terms that it's called is ratzoi vishoiv, the desire of the soul to move upwards, to connect, and then, the realization, if you will, of bringing it down, bring godliness down, right, through our mitzvah. So, a sacrifice, just the word, sacrifice, which is carbon, which means to come close. We are coming close to God. So what does that mean? Obviously, a movement going up, right? And that's the idea. We take an animal, put it on the altar, is a representation of the animal and me that did the sin. And therefore, I'm putting that on the altar in order to bring that up to God, to bring me up to God. That's the idea of a sacrifice, right? Tefillin, on the other hand, is about to draw down. The tefillin on the head is almost like an antenna, right? It's like this antenna to draw from above divine intelligence, and this on the seat of the head by intelligence, our brain, and to draw that down below, right? Those are the two movements. So we need to understand what is the connection between the movement going up and drawing down, right? What does that got to do with the exactingness of doing a mitzvah? Like what's the connection? So we could say that so the Alter Rebbe explains that all of the worlds, we said, right, are dependent on the exactingness on how we do a mitzvah. Again, if you do the mitzvah wrongly, then you don't create the connection. That's why there's, the laws of the mitzvahs and how we're supposed to do them. Now, doing the mitzvah correctly, and the Alter Rebbe explains, is a preface that afterwards, that all of the worlds are completely nullified. In that there's completely nullified to a exactingness of the teachings in the Torah. In other words, we have the act of doing the mitzvah that brings down, then we have the exactingness. Where do we get the exactingness of doing a mitzvah in a particular way? From the exactingness of the Torah. It's the Torah that teaches us on how to do the mitzvah, right? So they're dependent one on the other. In other words, the exactingness of the teachings of the Torah will bring us to the exactingness and how we have to fulfill the commandment, the mitzvah itself. So this is what King David is saying there. That your teachings that he is praising, God, he is praising, they're like a song, right? He's praising, he calls it a song, to praise God's teachings. And what is the praise? What's the praise of Torah? Is that the entire worlds are completely nullified, right? Not that they're just dependent on the mitzvah, the world. In other words, to bring God's divine light into the world and divine energy, his holy energy, right? Not klipa. But that the world is actually completely nullified, even more than just dependent on. It's completely nothing in reference to the exactingness of teachings in the Torah. Others. Just as a side note, right now, whatever you're going through in your life is nothing when you're learning Torah. You're learning Torah, the precision and understanding the teachings of the Torah, the exactingness of it, that in reference to the world doesn't exist. Your problem doesn't exist right now. It doesn't exist. You might feel that it does exist. In reality, it doesn't, because all that exists is God. So in the exactingness of the Torah teaching, the world doesn't exist. Now, that's a very high level, obviously, that we should appreciate, but that it's the truth. It's hard to live with the truth. That's all. No. Now, so the world is nothing in reference to Torah and the exactingness of a Torah teaching and a Torah law that teaches us in how to do the actual mitzvah. So therefore, in reference to the mitzvah, which are really a command from me and you to fulfill, how we should, how the world should be. The world should be, in aligned with God's will, and His will is the mitzvah. That's how this world should be. Therefore, it must be that there is a world. Because from the Torah point of view, there is no world. There's only Torah. From now, for me and what I got to do in the world, well, there is a world. From that perspective. We're giving different perspectives. I hope there's a bit, Adin, a very refined idea over here. So there has to be a world because there's me that I was commanded to do something in this world to make this world aligned with the divine will, with the mitzvah. And the fact that the world is completely nullified, that there is no world, is not about me commanded to engage in the world. It's about me, but not even me, the world in reference to the Torah. In reference to the Torah. Hold on 1 second. Right. In reference to the Torah. Give me a moment. I think. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Yeah, no point. Okay. Shkoyach. All right. Shkoyach. Okay. Okay, bye. I don't know if we're gonna have a minute here. It's crazy out there. Can't even walk on the sidewalks. They didn't like the sidewalks are like a foot of snow. And that's after plowing the sidewalks. It's a foot of no, in some places at least, a foot of snow because of the drift. So I walked here on the street. Okay. Gotta wrap my mind around this one. So we have two realities happening at the same time. Me doing the mitzvah, or all of us doing the mitzvah that we're commanded to do, which is that the mitzvah is in order that the world should be aligned with the divine will through the mitzvah. So it means that the world is pending. So there is a world and it's pending on my mitzvah. From the vantage point of the Torah, the teachings itself, there is no world. It's completely nullified. All there is the divine wisdom that's completely nullified. So I just want to bring this home. That, to, like, what does that mean? When we're learning, there is no world. All there is what we're learning. All there is the union and oneness with God in such a way that whatever problem you have, whatever challenge you have, is not a reality, doesn't exist. Now, it might exist before, it might exist afterwards, right? But when we're learning, and that's why after we learn, sometimes you're uplifted in such a manner that you're beyond whatever it is, and you're able to handle it where you couldn't before. On the other hand, we have to know that the mitzvahs that I do, which by the way includes also the study of Torah, is a mitzvah. There's the aspect of Torah, the way it's beyond the mitzvah. It's God's pleasure, my pleasure. When you're having pleasure, you're not having pain, right? Nothing exists except for that pleasure. So the pleasure of Torah. Doing the mitzvah, you need to know that your mitzvah, the world is pending on it. The world is pending. That, that the hostages will be released through our mitzvah. That Hamas will be destroyed. That's the take home. Okay. All right, folks. I hope that was a good take home. I was frozen there on the screen. Was okay, and everything was working?
Yes, okay.
Yeah? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay.